So can Nintendo Switch 2 edition cartridges that are backwards compatible, meaning that there is a Switch 1 version, can the Switch 2 version, the red cartridge, be inserted into the Switch 1 and be played on the Switch 1? Well, according to a third-party developer, it sounds like maybe, which makes things way more confusing. We're going to unpack all this here in this video. If you enjoy this kind of content, leave a like, subscribe for more. We do a variety of Nintendo content here on the channel, from news and gameplays and walkthroughs and guides and all that good stuff. And we've been covering a lot of Switch 2, and this one is really confusing to me. So if you don't know, Marvelous, they are bringing Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, if I'm pronouncing that right. It is one of the very first titles launching on the Nintendo Switch 2 on June 5th, 2025. And Marvelous has a blog post, and there's a Q&A kind of section, facts, I guess, if you will, in here. And there's a part that makes it very confusing, because it seems like they're saying that you can take this little red Switch 2 cartridge and put it in the Switch 1. And it's not like their wording sounds confusing. Their wording is crystal clear, but it doesn't make sense based on other information we know. And this just shows, by the way, that Nintendo really needs to up their communication, because what a disaster and a mess it's been. Let's go check out Marvelous's blog post. You can see the website up on screen, and you can see how confusing this is going to be. So it's a little short blog post. We can see, it supports Joy-Con 2 controllers, new mouse functionality, faster frame rates, higher resolution visuals, and all that. Again, this is a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game that has been enhanced to take full advantage of the new console's power and all that. If I pre-order the Nintendo Switch version, will it work on the Switch 2? Well, yes, right? Because the Switch 2 is backwards compatible. The Switch 2 could play Switch games. Okay, that makes sense. So far, we're good. It talks about the upgrade pack. What is that? I'm going through all this because it leads up to it, and just to make sure the information is clear. The upgrade pack lets you upgrade the Switch 2 edition of the game. It enables console-specific enhancements and ensures your save data carries over between versions. It includes, it's included on the Nintendo Switch 2 edition game card, okay? And available separately from the Nintendo eShop if you own the Switch, Nintendo Switch version. If you own the Switch version, you can obtain an upgrade pass separately from the Nintendo eShop. So very similar to how Nintendo is doing it with their first-party stuff. For Marvelous, their upgrade pack will be priced at 10 euros or 10 pounds or 15, I guess, US dollars, USD, which will be available on launch day. Okay, check the eShop for pricing in your region. Now, we're getting into confusing territory now. What is the physical Nintendo Switch 2 edition? Physical, okay? Like, we got to point that out. The Nintendo Switch 2 edition is a red, okay, the red Switch 2 cartridge, 64 game card. None of the Switch game cartridges are 64 gigs. That includes, in full, the Nintendo Switch game and the upgrade pack. So for Marvelous, they're saying you're getting all of it. Nintendo clarified that as well with their first party stuff, but you're getting, on the Switch 2 version, you're getting, at least for Rune Factory, you're getting the Switch game and the upgrade pack on the cartridge. Okay, the upgrade pack's not a separate download. Right, it says right here, no need to download the full game, and they're putting these things in bold. Now here's the part that is confusing, okay? Listen, pay attention. Simply insert the card. Which card? The red 64 game Nintendo Switch 2 edition game card, right? Simply insert the card into either a Nintendo Switch, that's the first console, or Nintendo Switch 2 console, and the correct version will launch automatically. So if there was any confusion, like, maybe they missaid something, no, they're saying, like, the correct version is going to launch. If you put it in a Switch 1, it'll load the Switch 1 version. If you put it in a Switch 2, the Switch 2 version is going to launch. Guys, I'm really confused, and I'll explain in a second, but this is confusing. Why? Well, we spoke about this in a different video. I'll link the whole video in the description below because I don't want to reiterate everything, but I'll reiterate parts. We've seen in Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour the game. It basically explains all the different stuff about the Switch 2. Lots of mini games in there that looks cool. I don't know, anyways, whatever. That's not what we're talking about. But in that game, there's a part that someone screen capped from I guess one of these events that shows off the Switch 1 game cartridge compared to the Switch 2, and it shows the differences that there's a little notch on the Switch 2 one. And so everybody's figuring like, okay, well that means you can't really insert the Switch 2 game cartridges into the Switch 1, right? They did that with the DS and the 3DS. They did that with the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance, where they were a little different, just different enough where the new game cartridges can't be played on the old system, but the old game cartridges could be played on the new system. So that was just like what everybody was assuming. That's just, I mean, it's just what it is, right? But now this just threw a whole wrench into that whole topic, because it sounds like this is gonna have, okay, so for Rune Factory, we're gonna get basically a red Nintendo Switch 2 game cartridge that they're claiming can be played on the Switch 1. Now, this makes no sense to me unless that little notch is, again, why the notch? Why the little notch on the game cartridge? I've been breaking my head, and if you guys can think of something, please let me know. That doesn't make sense. Unless this is a Nintendo Switch 2 game cartridge that is made a little differently, and it does not have the notch for some reason, which again doesn't make really a whole lot of sense to me. Maybe, or maybe it's just possible. Because here's the thing, right? Here's the implication of this. If that is the case with this game, does that raises the question, does that mean that's going to be the case with all the first party stuff? Like, okay, let me take Breath of the Wild, for example. You get the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, the red game cartridge card, you know, whatever. You get that. Can you pop that into a Switch 1 console if you so choose, and it'll automatically load the Switch 1 version of that game? Like, now we need answers, and like we need Nintendo to kind of specify if that is the case, because like that's sort of the implication here, is that could possibly be the case. I don't know, or maybe this is a game to game basis, but I don't know. Listen, I thought this was interesting. I wish I had more of a definitive answer for you guys. Like, we don't have any information from Nintendo because their communication is just not been, what it used to be. It used to be much better. It's not good right now. And so we don't know, what's up with that. But again, we have a third party developers saying this. Are they somehow wrong? Maybe, but it doesn't make sense. Like, their information is not, it's not something that you can just misunderstand. They make it crystal clear, like without a shadow of a doubt, what they are saying. What they are saying is exactly what it is. That's very clearly obvious. But again, what does that mean for the other Switch 2 edition games? Like Metroid Prime 4. Can I just get the Switch 2 version and then also play it on a Switch 1? I mean, why would you want to do that though? You know what I mean? I mean, unless you're trying to like plan ahead, right? Unless it's like, well, you don't yet have the Switch 2 version of the game, but you want, like, because Metroid Prime 4 is not out. It's a game that's not even out. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, they're at least, they've been out for a while on the Switch 1. But Metroid Prime 4, that, like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, you're not getting a Switch 2 at launch, but you want to make sure that you have all of that data on the cartridge, so you don't have to get the upgrade pack as like a downloadable code. Because if you have a Switch 1 version, then the upgrade pack ends up being a downloadable code. But if you get the Switch 2 version, it's all in one cartridge. So for something like that, it would make sense for people who, again, are not able to get a Switch 2 at launch, but they plan to down the road, and so they want the Switch 2 edition that's all in one cartridge. So once they do get a Switch 2, they just have that Switch 2 cartridge, but that can still play on their Switch 1 for the time being. So in those cases, it actually kind of does make sense. But again, I don't know, man. I hope Nintendo comes out and clarifies something, but I want to let you guys know about this because the implications are pretty big if that ends up being the case. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean it is the case. Like I said, that could be something that, like, like if all Switch 2 game cartridges can in fact be inserted into the Switch 1, it doesn't mean that all games are going to be, made in a way where it's automatically going to read the Switch 1 or Switch 2 version. Although it would make sense that would just be how it would be by default. But then the other question again still remains, what's with the notch on the Switch 2 game cartridge that is completely different? I'm very confused, and if you guys can make more sense of it, please let me know in the comments below. And if Nintendo says something, or if you find more information, I'll make another video at the time. But for now, that's all we got. Thanks for watching. Stick around for more. Subscribe, hit the like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, all that stuff. I'll see you guys soon. Another one. Tell your friends. Game on. Thanks for watching.